Before we begin, gently tap. Like if money decisions ever made you feel stressed, confused, or quietly falling behind financially. That small action helps this video reach people who want honest money conversations without judgment, pressure, or unrealistic promises. Leave a quick comment telling me which state you're watching from, because money pressure feels very different across America today. And if calm, realistic financial thinking helps you breathe easier, consider subscribing so you never miss future videos like this. Now, let me ask you something uncomfortable most people feel, but rarely admit when thinking about cars and money. Have you noticed how buying a new car feels exciting, yet somehow your savings never seem to grow afterward? That temporary confidence fades quickly, but the monthly payment stays, quietly draining your future financial freedom. Today, I want to talk about a decision many people underestimate, yet it shapes wealth more than almost anything else. Driving a so-called beater might sound embarrassing, but it could be one of the smartest financial decisions you'll ever make. When I say beater, I'm not talking about unsafe cars that break down constantly or leave you stranded randomly. I mean a vehicle that runs reliably but looks ordinary, imperfect, and clearly unimpressive to strangers passing by. Faded paint, small dents, worn interiors, nothing flashy, nothing exciting, just transportation that quietly does its job. Most people shop for cars completely backwards, focusing on how vehicles look instead of how they function financially. They get excited about features, screens, and status, while ignoring long-term costs hiding behind monthly payments. Wealthy people think differently about cars, seeing them as tools for movement, not symbols of success or identity. They ask one simple question first: will this vehicle move me reliably for the lowest total cost possible? People who struggle financially often ask a different question: what will others think when they see me driving this? That single mindset difference quietly determines who builds wealth and who stays stuck chasing appearances forever. Let's slow down and look at the math behind car payments, because the numbers reveal something shocking. Once you understand this, you'll never look at new cars, old cars, or monthly payments the same way again. Most people judge cars by monthly payments because that number feels smaller and easier to emotionally accept. A $400 payment doesn't feel dangerous, even though it quietly controls your financial life. But monthly payments hide the real cost, which is total money leaving your future forever. Let's compare two realistic choices many Americans face when replacing a vehicle today. Option 1 is a newer sedan with modern features, financed at about $450 monthly. That payment lasts 6 years, requiring full insurance coverage and locking you into long-term obligations. Over those 6 years, you'll send more than $32,000 toward that car alone. That number doesn't include interest, higher insurance premiums, registration fees, or unavoidable depreciation losses. Option 2 is an older version of the same model, purchased with $8,000 cash. It has higher mileage, visible wear, but still runs reliably and serves the same transportation purpose. There are no monthly payments, no lender restrictions, and insurance costs drop dramatically immediately. That $450 stays in your bank account instead of leaving every single month. At first, people assume repairs will erase the savings, but the math usually says otherwise. Even a major $1,500 repair costs less than just 4 months of car payments. Meanwhile, the newer car continues depreciating, losing value every year regardless of how carefully you drive. After 6 years, that newer car might be worth $15,000 if you're lucky. The beater owner still owns their vehicle outright and avoided tens of thousands in payments. But the real difference appears when you ask what happened to that unused monthly payment money. What if instead of paying lenders, you invested that $450 every month? This is where the conversation stops being emotional and becomes extremely uncomfortable for most people. Investing $450 monthly doesn't sound exciting, but time quietly turns boring habits into powerful wealth. Imagine investing that money in a simple, diversified portfolio, earning around 7% annually over time. After 6 years, you'd have roughly $42,000 quietly working for you instead. The newer car owner ends with a depreciated vehicle and no extra savings to show. The beater driver ends with transportation, investments, and complete freedom from car payments. This difference exists because money invested grows while money spent on cars permanently disappears. Opportunity cost means every dollar used for one thing cannot be used somewhere else simultaneously. Car payments don't just cost money. They steal future opportunities you never even see happening. Over decades, this invisible loss becomes larger than most people earn in entire working careers. Investing $400 monthly for 30 years at 7% creates over $400,000. That nearly $500,000 represents comfort, options, and security most people never experience. And that calculation ignores insurance savings, lower registration costs, and reduced stress from older vehicles. Many people underestimate compound growth because it feels slow, boring, and unimpressive early on. But compound interest rewards patience, consistency, and boring decisions far more than flashy purchases. New cars deliver excitement instantly, then deliver regret slowly over many financially painful years. Beaters deliver nothing exciting today but quietly improve your life year after year. This is why wealthy people prioritize decisions that feel boring but produce extraordinary long-term results. They understand freedom grows from what you consistently avoid, not just what you occasionally earn. Car payments feel normal in society, but normal doesn't mean healthy or financially intelligent. Once you see this clearly, returning to monthly car payments becomes incredibly difficult emotionally. At this point, many people say older cars cost more to maintain and repair regularly. That concern sounds reasonable, but it often comes from fear, not actual long-term financial comparison. Yes, older vehicles need maintenance, but maintenance exists with every car regardless of age. Oil changes, brakes, tires, and fluids are unavoidable costs, even on brand new vehicles. The difference is how those costs appear emotionally versus how monthly payments quietly feel normal. A $1,500 repair feels painful because it arrives suddenly and demands immediate attention. But that repair still costs less than 3 or 4 months of new car payments. Meanwhile, monthly payments drain your account continuously without ever feeling like an emergency. Older car maintenance is usually predictable when you stay proactive instead of reactive. New car payments are guaranteed, unavoidable, and permanent for many years no matter what. Wealthy people compare worst-case repair scenarios against guaranteed long-term payment obligations. They choose occasional inconvenience over constant financial pressure that never truly disappears. Another overlooked advantage of older cars is simpler technology and fewer expensive electronic systems. When something breaks, diagnosing and fixing older vehicles is often faster and cheaper. Newer cars rely on complex computers that fail unpredictably and require specialized tools. Those repairs often cost thousands even while you're still making monthly payments. Paying both repair bills and car payments simultaneously creates a brutal financial squeeze. Older car owners rarely experience that double pressure because payments are already eliminated. This is why fear of repairs is often exaggerated compared to the reality of constant payments. Understanding this trade-off helps you evaluate risk logically instead of emotionally reacting to discomfort. Making this strategy work requires knowing how to evaluate an older vehicle before handing over cash. This isn't advanced mechanical knowledge, but understanding a few basics protects you from expensive mistakes. Start by checking engine oil, transmission fluid, and coolant for color, smell, and proper levels. Listen carefully to how the engine sounds when idling and while gently revving the throttle. Smooth, consistent sounds usually signal healthy components, while knocking or grinding suggests serious hidden problems. Look underneath the car for leaks, rust, or damaged parts that indicate neglect or long-term issues. Test drive the vehicle long enough to feel braking response, steering alignment, and transmission shifting behavior. Pay attention to warning lights, strange vibrations, or delayed responses that could signal costly repairs. Ask directly about maintenance history, including timing belts, major services, and regular oil change intervals. A well-documented maintenance record often matters more than low mileage or clean paint. Research common problems for the specific model you're considering before committing emotionally to any purchase. Some older vehicles are famous for reliability, while others hide expensive design flaws. Online owner forums provide real experiences that dealerships rarely mention during quick test drives. Spending 2 hours researching saves years of financial regret and unexpected repair expenses. Avoid buying emotionally, especially when a seller pressures you with urgency or artificial scarcity. Walking away from a questionable deal is always cheaper than owning a problematic vehicle long-term. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's reliable transportation at the lowest reasonable total cost. Cosmetic flaws don't affect reliability, but mechanical neglect almost always becomes expensive later. Smart beater buyers prioritize function, documentation, and history over appearances or temporary excitement. When you approach purchases this way, older cars become financial tools instead of financial threats. Beyond money, driving an older car creates a level of psychological freedom most people never truly experience. You stop worrying about door dings, parking lot scratches, and minor cosmetic damage ruining your day. That constant background stress quietly disappears, freeing mental energy for decisions that actually matter long term. You no longer feel pressure to wash, detail, or protect your car like a fragile financial asset. Parking becomes simple again because you're not desperately searching for the safest corner spot everywhere. This relaxed mindset slowly spreads into other areas of your financial life without you consciously noticing. You begin questioning purchases driven by status instead of genuine usefulness or long-term personal value. Driving a beater helps separate your self-worth from the material things you happen to own. That separation is powerful because confidence becomes internal rather than dependent on appearances or external validation. Another surprising benefit is becoming nearly invisible to thieves and unwanted attention from strangers. Older cars rarely attract criminals because they assume there's nothing valuable worth stealing inside. This form of financial camouflage quietly protects you from unnecessary risk and stress during daily routines. Flashy vehicles broadcast perceived wealth to people whose opinions should never influence your financial decisions. Social pressure fades once you realize people worth knowing truly don't care what you drive. Friends, family, and respected colleagues judge your character, consistency, and integrity, not faded paint. Strangers who judge your car often reveal more about their own insecurity than your success. Letting go of external validation becomes financially and emotionally liberating over time with repeated experience. You gain clarity about what success actually means beyond visible symbols and public approval. This mindset shift quietly strengthens every future financial decision you'll make from this point forward. Wealth often grows fastest when nobody around you can visually tell you're building it. Let me share a short story that perfectly illustrates how this mindset quietly builds serious wealth. I once met a real estate investor who arrived at meetings driving a visibly beaten old pickup truck. The truck had dents, faded paint, and looked like it had survived several rough decades already. Someone jokingly asked why he never upgraded to something nicer, considering his obvious financial success. He smiled and explained that truck cost $3,000 and never once left him stranded. During those same years, he invested money others spent on car payments into rental properties instead. That unimpressive truck quietly helped fund his retirement while others financed luxury depreciation. This example highlights opportunity cost, a concept most people ignore when making emotional vehicle decisions. Every dollar spent impressing strangers is a dollar unavailable for investments that actually grow. Monthly car payments quietly prevent people from building assets that produce income and long-term security. Over time, those missed opportunities compound into differences measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Wealth isn't usually built through dramatic moves, but through consistently avoiding unnecessary financial drains. Cars depreciate, investments appreciate, yet many people willingly prioritize the wrong direction. Driving an older car forces you to confront whether comfort comes from possessions or personal progress. That honest confrontation often becomes the turning point toward healthier financial priorities and habits. Once you experience progress without visible status symbols, confidence becomes rooted internally, not socially. You stop needing approval from strangers because your financial trajectory finally feels under control. This internal stability makes resisting future lifestyle inflation significantly easier than before. Each avoided car upgrade strengthens discipline that carries into housing, investing, and spending decisions. Small transportation choices quietly shape entire financial lives, more than dramatic one-time decisions ever could. However, driving a beater isn't right for everyone, and honesty about your situation truly matters financially and professionally today. Some careers depend on first impressions, where a presentable vehicle directly supports income and credibility with clients daily. Real estate agents, sales professionals, or consultants may need cars that signal trust and professionalism to prospects immediately. The key difference is whether the car actually helps your income or simply feeds your ego instead financially. Most people convince themselves image matters when their jobs never require personal vehicles at all. Professionally, today whatsoever. For them, expensive cars are consumption choices that delay financial independence without providing returns whatsoever long-term financially speaking. Understanding this boundary prevents turning a smart strategy into an unrealistic financial rule for everyone blindly applied universally. Smart financial decisions consider context, goals, and trade-offs rather than copying advice blindly from others online without thinking. For most Americans, transportation simply needs to work reliably, not impress strangers daily at traffic lights everywhere constantly. Once income and safety are covered, minimizing costs becomes the smartest long-term move financially speaking for wealth building. This mindset allows flexibility without turning frugality into unnecessary deprivation or pride, for anyone financially over time consistently. The goal isn't suffering, it's aligning spending with values and long-term freedom intentionally and calmly for life ahead. Driving a beater becomes empowering when it's chosen consciously, not forced by circumstance or desperation during financial planning. That choice reinforces confidence because you're controlling money, not being controlled by it over time consistently and intentionally. Financial maturity often looks boring from outside but feels peaceful from the inside long-term for those building wealth. People chasing appearances rarely experience that peace, regardless of income levels over time, because pressure never truly stops. Driving modestly teaches patience, discipline, and delayed gratification in everyday financial decisions consistently that compound into wealth over time. Those skills transfer directly into investing, saving, and resisting lifestyle inflation later in life as income increases steadily. Eventually, your net worth grows while your lifestyle remains intentionally simple and flexible by choice without feeling deprived. That balance, not flashy cars, is what quietly creates lasting financial security for most people over their lifetimes. When car payments disappear, the extra cash flow doesn't vanish. It creates options most people never experience. You can finally build a real emergency fund without constantly worrying about unexpected expenses destroying everything. You can increase retirement contributions, capture employer matches, and let compound growth work quietly in background. Some people use that freed money to start investing consistently for the first time in their lives. Others pay down high-interest debt faster, reducing stress and accelerating financial stability dramatically over time. These small monthly decisions stack together, quietly reshaping entire financial futures without dramatic sacrifices or extreme budgeting. Imagine being 25 and committing to never having another car payment for your working life. Investing $400 monthly from 25 to 65 can grow into over $800,000. That wealth comes simply from choosing reliable transportation instead of financing appearances year after year consistently. This calculation ignores additional savings from lower insurance, simpler maintenance, and reduced stress entirely. Meanwhile, most people repeat the car upgrade cycle every few years without realizing the long-term cost. Each upgrade resets depreciation, payments, and stress, keeping them trapped on a financial treadmill indefinitely. Driving a beater breaks that cycle and forces money to finally work for you. It may not feel glamorous, but financial freedom rarely announces itself loudly or impressively. While others chase validation at red lights, you're quietly building assets that actually matter. Your car might never turn heads, but your bank account and investments eventually will. Choose transportation over status, and future you will thank present you repeatedly for decades. Wealth is built through boring decisions repeated consistently, not flashy purchases celebrated briefly. Driving a beater is less about cars and more about choosing freedom intentionally. Make that choice early, stay patient, and let time reward discipline quietly beyond expectations.